Masters of the Universe, the Legends of Grayskull podcast.
Legends of Grayskull is a fan podcast exploring the vast worlds of He-Man and She-Ra. Join Sean Scavarna and Matthew Duch as they discuss the history and mystery of Eternia and Etheria, diving deep into all incarnations of Masters of the Universe.
Hey, you know who's back? It's the Legends of Grayskull podcast. Now that you know, let's go get ready for the show. It's the Legends of Grayskull podcast. Sit back and enjoy the ride right now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Legends of Grayskull presents Revolution Reviews.
Battle Cat.
That was a cat. She jumped on me right as the intro was ending. I am your host, Matthew Duch, back again with Sean Scavarna, Jesse Arnold, and Curtis Ackerman. How are we doing tonight, boys?
Excellent.
Spluferous.
Wonderful.
Yep.
So as you know, we are breaking down the new Netflix series, Masters of the Universe Revolution, episode by episode. Episode 1 is already out. Go check that out if you haven't already. Make sure you're still watching Revolution, especially if you enjoyed it and you want some more episodes ordered. All Netflix cares about is views. And give it that double thumbs up at the end.
And go to IMDb if you don't have an account already, create one and rate it, because that is important as well.
And if you already have an account, make a new account, because all you need is an email and those are easy to create, and rate it again. And I have heard too, I don't know how much truth there is to this, but apparently a binge view, i.e. watching all 5 back to back, counts higher in their system than just watching like an episode here and there. So if at all possible, binge through it, maybe even just leave it on when you leave for work in the morning. And
go to sleep to it every night.
Sleep to it, yeah. So like that helps a lot too. So check that out. Check out episode 1. And right now we're going to jump right into episode 2, Ascension. All right, scene 1. We start in a flashback. A young Keldor and Randor are going through their father's office when apparently looking for some wine. Keldor finds it, but they are interrupted by their father, King Miro, and his wife, Queen Amelia, which I believe is the first time their mother has ever been named. They are arguing over what to do about Keldor. While he is the firstborn, he has a different mother who is a Gar, and that makes him ineligible to wear the crown. So his younger brother will inherit the crown no matter what. They come to a decision to send him back to Anwat Gar, where they hope that he will flourish. Back in present day, Adam is seated at that same desk, and Keldor is the one telling him this story. He tells him that upon his return to Anwat Gar, they were attacked by the Horde, and rumors of his death were spread. He allowed Randor to believe this rumor, to spare him from having to deal with his bastard brother. While they are discussing what Keldor's situation and what Adam is to do next, they are interrupted by an explosion. Adam and Cringer team up and jump off the balcony in an amazing transformation to go see what the danger is.
So, my first thing about that was I love that we are not in the Filmation era where a transformation can be done in that kind of a way, because I just loved they're just jumping into it. He says, by the power of Grayskull in midair, and by the time they land, they're He-Man and Battle Cat again. that is the kind of stuff that I've been waiting almost 40 years to see, and it's happening on this show, which is great.
I will say, technically, in the Filmation episode Song of Solace, Adam fell out of the Sky Chariot, and he did do a transformation on his fall down. Just saying. But
Nerd alert.
It's like you have a podcast or
It's
something. What the
almost.
hell, man?
But I agree. That was not only was that an amazing transformation. I love the dynamic of that. Adam jumping on Cringer's back, but you also get the feeling that they've done that a lot. Like Cringer's just like, stand back. I know what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
exactly.
We're also in a unique time now where they don't have a secret anymore.
Right.
So they don't have to worry about who's around when they do it.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, which is very true.
Changes the field too. Like,
But other than that, I was really into this beginning story of Keldor, and the behind the scenes of, okay, he's the half brother to Randor, how that whole scene played out. Again, there's a lot of emotion in this series that I wasn't expecting and stuff. So yeah, I was pretty impressed by how they brought that across as quietly as they did, because like they have Randor crying, but they don't have like a big emotional moment. It's this simple little moment under this desk between the two of them where they're trying not to get caught for sneaking in and all that. So,
well, and
yeah,
since it's a memory, it's like all from Keldor's perspective too. That was interesting. Like, you really don't get Randor's side of it. We're trusting in this Keldor's version of events. So that's just a lot of fun trying. Me personally trying to figure out, like, who is this Keldor? What are we doing with him? Still don't trust him, but like, what's his deal?
Well, the way that Shatner plays him, it makes it hard for you not to want to trust him. He has that like jovial uncle vibe that is like, he's got it down. Yeah. So like, even if, because they have that one little shot where he smiles just a little bit when he gets the crown in the last episode.
Whoa, and that, spoiler alert.
Or when was that? I don't remember. Spoiler alert. I hate when you do that shit, man, because I can't remember what's what anymore. Anyway, they give you a little hint, like, okay, maybe he's not as trustworthy as you think, but at the same time, I'm going, no, it's Shatner. It's Shatner. Just don't leave your girlfriend or wife around him, and you're fine.
I was about to say, it's that uncle that's like, he's fun to hang out with, he's awesome, but like, you bring the new girl over, and you're like, don't go in the room alone with him.
Yeah,
like, something.
He's got one at every spaceport. Don't go and do it. Don't do it.
I don't know how to proceed from that. I think it was cool. The flashback was cool. I thought it was interesting. They just went again. I don't know if they've ever established any of this before, but the whole calling him a bastard and he's the oldest son. Like, I was like, wow, they're just really going for like the Game of Thrones of this. With
most of the modern media, when they have dealt with Keldor, this has been the story, is that Miro had a child out of wedlock with Agar, usually Saren, which she is named in this too. And he has generally been the firstborn. And so that kind of sets up this struggle with, well, technically it should be me type of thing. But that's all the modern era stuff. In the vintage, it was pretty much just, we knew he had a long lost brother named Keldor who had some suspicious ties to Skeletor somehow, and they never really, it was an end of the line concept that they never really got to explore vintage wise.
Okay. But yeah, I thought the scene was interesting. The whole politics of, but his people, he'll be considered an outcast here, I just thought it was really interesting. They were able to set all that up in a fairly short scene, and like you guys said, delivered some good emotion in it. And yeah, the transformation, just jumping off the balcony, and it made me laugh a little bit on the rewatch, where you just see Cringer just like prancing across like the rooftops, like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, no pun intended.
I love it.
The physics of it felt a little weird, but it was fun. I like it.
So for me, like starting with the, in the room and they're under the table and king and queen come in and there's the arguing going on. It really felt to me like this isn't, Randor, and this isn't the king and queen we know. Like
Right.
they don't have the same kind of relationship. Like she is very not happy. The kids are very close in age, so to me, it's not clear whether Keldor was conceived before the king was married to the queen, or if he cheated on her. There's definitely some problems in their relationship. Like they are not like this loving couple that we've seen, we've grown up with in filmation and everything.
Well, they do just real quick. They do definitely state that he was firstborn. So
yeah, they say he's first, but that could be first still after they're married,
right.
or it could be before they got married. So,
and I was going to say in the DC Comics Eternity War, Miro actually gets lost at sea and washes up on Anwat Gar, and that's when he has the relationship with Saren, and then he ends up being rescued later on. So even in that, it was kind of ambiguous whether they were together or not. I did find it interesting. Queen Amelia is not happy with him, but she's also really advocating for Keldor, surprisingly. Like, especially in my second watch, it wasn't, I didn't feel it was as much like get rid of the bastard as like he deserves better than what he's going to get here, which was kind of an interesting angle to take with her. Because it'd be easier just to be like, forget the bastard.
It's also one of those, though, that, like, I don't know. I've watched a lot of, like, historical TV shows, like, in early England or Scotland or Viking times or whatever. And there's, part of that I've seen in the past where it's like you're trying to get rid of the other possible heir to the throne. And so you say what you need to say to do that. And so I'm not sure in that situation if she's saying, oh, he would have a better life there because that makes it easier to get rid of him, or if she truly is concerned for him. I don't know. We don't spend enough time with these characters to know.
She does also at one point tell him that he could change the law if he wanted to and make Keldor the king.
Yeah.
Like, so that's the part where I'm like, okay, she's at least advocating for him. Like,
yeah,
either way, right? Like, I think that's probably, you're right. That's what she's going for. Like, make a decision, but like, it could go either way with Miro at least. So
yeah. So that was my first thing. Is just there's obviously, this isn't the happy married, king and queen that we know. There's some problems here. So that was number one. The whole thing with Keldor was it was really surprising to me because in every iteration of Keldor that I've seen or read or whatever before this, it's either a flashback or it's in a time period that's before Skeletor is around.
Yeah,
we've already seen Skeletor in this series. We've seen Skeletor in other scenes. So, and now there's this Keldor that's like a different person. It's a different character. And so I'm like, where are they going with this? Like, are they making them two separate people? Or because, I know some people had problem with they prefer the whole demon thing that he came from another dimension and came through the portal and all this and that. And so when, the whole idea of the Keldor becomes Skeletor, and especially the idea from 2000X that he was his uncle, he was Adam's uncle, like rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So at this point in this series, I'm like, I don't know what they're doing, but I'm along for the ride. Like I want to see what's going to happen with this. And to Sean's point, like, Shatner's just doing an amazing job. Keldor does come off very sincere. And so I'm like, I want to believe this right at this time and that he is good and that it's just a completely separate character. So that was kind of what I took from that, that from that first part anyway.
Yep, I completely agree with all you guys. Like I said, It's interesting because the whole thing with Miro and Amelia, it like pushes it where it's like, okay, yes, this is. It's taking advantage of the fact that this is for us. This show is for us fans that have grown up with it, like, and we can tackle some of these issues and in a way that they couldn't, wouldn't, and shouldn't for the stuff that's with the younger kids.
Yeah, the eavesdrop. I'll just jump in real quick.
Yeah.
The eavesdropping was a good way for us to find out the story without it. You know, like it was like they were having that conversation, but we were eavesdropping like from the perspective of the kids under the desk.
Exactly.
You know, and we're able to see it from that point of view. So that was interesting way to tell that backstory.
Yeah, and so it's pushing these adult themes about, mixed families essentially and everything else, and what do you do with a bastard son? But at the same time, it didn't take me out of it, or it didn't make me feel uncomfortable, or like this is not Masters, not to pick on Revelation, but like in Revelation when you get the scene where Evil Lynn's making out with Skeletor, and you guys weren't here, but me and Sean are sitting here like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this felt a lot more natural, and like, it still felt like Eternia. We're not just making it adult to make it adult's sake. And yeah, Shatner's performance definitely just seals the deal. And I was right there with you. I'm still like, I can't figure this guy out. I don't trust him. I'm like, and now I'm going in my mind like, oh, are they making him somebody different? Like you, Curtis, I'm just like, my mind's going with the possibilities of what this can mean for the story. So, if nothing else, we'll jump on to scene 2. All right, we're back with Tila. She arrives at Dark Smoke. Upon entering Grandmare's lair, she noticed a tapestry that depicts the 4 towers of Eternia. Grandmere soon rises from his fire pit, although it is oddly unlit. Tila goes to greet him, but is cut off by the grumpy old dragon. He dismisses her and states that he knows who she is and that he does not have enough time left for long introductions. Turns out that Grandmere is dying, and he believes that she is sent with condolences from the king. Tila apologizes and informs him that the king himself has passed and that she is on a mission now to resurrect Preternia, so that his spirit will have a place to go. She tells him that she needs the Ka magic from him to accomplish this task, but is interrupted by a voice from the shadows telling her that this is pointless, as Grandmere will not help her, as we see Evil Lynn step from the dark.
I really enjoyed this scene. I'm not knowing a lot about like the different magics and all that stuff, because like I said, my memory of the Filmation stuff is very foggy. I mean, I remember loving it as a kid, but like the details of stories, and I'm not as well versed in the 2000X stuff. So after Revelation and the CGI show on Netflix, the way they did the magic over there with like the Havoc and everything, I thought that was cool. So like seeing how they're setting this up, and it's those 3 or 4, I'm not sure what that 4th one is. You guys,
well,
can
the 4th tower would be Central Tower. That's the one with the cat head on it. So
Okay.
the 4th tower that they added in the tapestry was the Havoc Tower, the ram-headed one. The vintage only had Grayskull Central, which was the blue cat, and then the Snake Tower.
Oh,
so
okay.
now
I
they
see.
showed on the
Okay.
back side that there's a Havoc Tower, or was a Havoc Tower.
Okay. Well, thank you. That filled that in.
That's what I do.
I was trying to focus on it, and like it cut away too fast for me to really take in what all was happening with that. But I like this whole thing. Again, I'm not super well versed in Grandmere. I know the character exists. I've seen the figure from classics and all this stuff, and I've seen art of it before, but I don't remember him from other things. So getting to see this and like his ruined helmet kind of off on the side or discarded, just like in a pile of snow or ice or whatever, and just his whole speech. That's why he takes a long time to say he doesn't have a lot of time left, which I thought was funny. Like, seemed like she was about done with her introduction.
Yeah.
Um,
He's a bit of a drama queen.
Yeah. The back and forth of it was cool. I really liked the design and the look of the art on him. And the whole thing about asking for the power. And I thought it was really fun to see Evelyn because I wasn't sure how she was going to play with the way they left off with her in Revelation. You know, she's kind of off on Trella. You know, she's had a redemption arc of sorts, but we didn't get to see any of it really play out, like character wise, like, you know, ongoing. So seeing her there and, you know, it does come in with a sense of not menace, but antagonism, you know, just the way she's like,
100%. Like,
I mean, it's not like, okay, these two are about to fight, but it's like, okay, this is like the cheerleader and the goth chick are running into each other kind of thing in the hallway, and everybody knows they've had problems in the past kind of a thing. So
yeah, and it took me by surprise too, because like obviously from the promos and stuff, like I knew she was gonna show back up.
Sure.
But like for her to appear here, it's like, like again, just out of all the places you would pop Evelyn back in, I would have never guessed Granimir's Inner Sanctum. So
my turn.
that way.
So there's some things I like about this. There's some things I don't like about this. So, you know, the addition of Evelyn showing up there, I was also surprised, just like you said, that she was there, but I was excited for it because I felt like she did have a great character arc in Revelation. And I think that's one thing that both of these series have done. You know, as much as there's, you know, some fanboys out there that would just, you know, I just want He-Man, or I just want Skeletor, or I just want Teela, or whatever. I like that we got an Orko story arc. I like that we got an Evelyn story arc. Like, these things are cool. You know, Evelyn through Filmation, through 2000X, through comic books, whatever. I've never cared about Evelyn at all. It's just been kind of a side character, just a side henchman, not even one of the good ones, in my opinion. Revelation made me care about Evelyn, and this series continues that. So this, you know, her showing up there and continuing to try to figure out what her path is and what she should be doing. I'm a huge fan of that. I also liked both of their costumes too. Like you see several throughout this, you see several different costume changes with Teela, Evelyn, He-Man. And I think they did an amazing job with all of them. Like, every time that I saw a costume change, I was like, I could see that as a figure. I could see that as a figure. Like, and so their wintry garb that they've got on as they're in that area, I thought was another cool costume change.
Yeah, because you don't have to do that at all. Like with Teela, Sorceress, like you don't have to add the sleeves and the gloves, but it makes sense to.
Right.
So
I thought it was really cool. The parts that I didn't like, the first one was Granimir's look. I liked that they kept him the pink version, not the green version from the mini comics. But his face, and it just threw me off how different he looked from Filmation.
And I'm guessing that's a copyright issue.
I don't know. I don't
guessing.
know the ins. I don't know the ins and outs of that. All I know,
it's a
is
mess.
that,
Filmation and Mattel rights are
yeah,
hot mess. No one knows them exactly. So,
but Revelation was really pushed as a continuation off of what we grew up with as kids. And for the most part, I think in terms of the art style, in terms of how the characters looked, to me, it felt that way. It felt like, okay, this is an updated version of what we had as kids, but there's a lot of similarities there, and you can see where they drew their inspiration from and stuff. The Granimir, I just felt like was such a departure from that it kind of threw me off. Even if you didn't draw him the exact same way, like I just picture Granimir just kind of sitting there, just kind of, like he's he's old and beaten down, and like he's not, which they did do some of that, but I don't know, it just the way they looked, and especially the face, I felt was way off. And then when they were talking about like having him help, and he said something to the effect of that, the last time that humans were trusted with magic, that such magic, it led to a massive war and all this and that. He almost acts as if the other encounters we've had with Granomir over the years haven't occurred. Like, because we went through this same kind of thing in Filmation when they went to him and they were trying to get like Man at Arms was like, statue or whatever. Yep. Yeah. And they were trying to get him fixed. And they had to go through this whole challenge, and then they didn't do the challenge, and they had to prove to Granomir that they were worthy of his help. And this kind of, to me, it felt like those things never happened. Like it retconned that those things never occurred. So I didn't like that, because I like trying to think of this as kind of a continuation of Filmation. But otherwise, the art, where they're going with the story, the fact that they're doing these separate adventure things, I'm all on board for. And I like Evelyn so much in these two series that I feel like you could partner her up with anybody. Like the partnership between her and Orko in Revelation, I was like all for. And so as soon as they partner her up with Tila here, I'm like, okay, I'm down. Like you could literally take Evelyn and put her with any character in that series, and I will watch 5, 10, 12 episodes of just that. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at for this scene.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I don't think that those adventures happened, or they didn't happen like we saw them in Filmation. However, there are lines where he does say he remembers Tila. And, he even says that, he's had some, he interactions with our sorceress, Tila, like, because he's like, oh, yeah, she called you her little bird, which means he actually knew quite a bit, and it's kind of that Granomir ego thing, too, to kind of drop, like, I know stuff that you didn't even know. So, yeah, it was kind of interesting there but I do agree that the Filmation adventures with him as we know them did not occur in this reality. At the same time, I liked his character design. It can't touch classic Filmation Granomir, but I thought they did a good job of kind of merging, because you've always had the more beastly dragons in Masters, and then you had Granomir, who was a lot more humanoid, and I thought this did a good job of kind of bridging the two. Especially, he's walking around like a normal dragon, but then we'll see a little bit later, like he's mirror. If I was going to get rid of anything, I'd get rid of the weird Fu Manchu tendrils. I think that's the biggest thing.
Did you watch the Dungeons and Dragons movie?
Yes.
This past year. That dragon that like rolls around all hilariously and
the
stuff.
Fat one? Yeah.
That felt more like Granomir to me than this did. like that's, I want a fat, immobile Granomir that's just wise and like smarter than anything, but he's just a fat sitting around the cave Granomir. So even if you didn't do it the exact same way, that's kind of like I saw this Granomir, and even though he's like sickly and dying and all this and that, he still looks like a terror, like a scary dragon, and that's not what I picture Granomir as. So
gotcha. But I gotta shout out John Delancey with the voice acting. Obviously was a little bit of effect on there, but still I thought he had the attitude of Granomir down perfectly. Just a lot of
the
fun.
Voice was good.
Yeah, a lot of surprises, and again, they just got me hooked. This is the point where I'm like, I don't want to turn this off for anything, because I have so many questions.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, we mentioned it in the last episode about the upgrade of Melissa Benoist as Tila versus Sarah Michelle Gellar, and having the three of them in this scene just confirms that these are three of the more interesting characters they bring to the table this time around, and the voice acting on all fronts works for me on every level. I was curious how John Delancey was going to do it. I know there were people going, oh, he can do this in his sleep. but I wanted to hear it as Granomir, and then seeing the scene with this, I'm just like, oh, it works. It works.
Absolutely.
And honestly, this got me excited for the fact that we had the ticking clock issue in the plot of Tila has to get Preternia back. And now, on top of that, we find out, well, here's how we're going to do that. And by the way, it ain't going to be just like, oh, Alakazam, boom. It's going to be, now you got to learn all this other stuff. And I do like that vibe. It's a world building thing that works nicely for me in this scene of, it's like, okay, you gotta deal with the Ka magic, the Havoc magic, and I love that Havoc is still a part of this because of CGI, and that was one of the things in CGI that absolutely I was owned to that idea after they brought it up. And then the Ka magic that now Granomir is gonna help with. It's like, I dig that on so many levels because I do like how Masters has that. It'll call back to old things. And even in Jesse's case, and even for me in some cases, I don't know the mythology as deep as some other fans out there, but I do love that enriches this story. That this is now something that's a part of it, whether we knew it or not from this point on.
I think Sean also appreciated the fact that they tied Ka to Granomir and not the Snake Men.
Oh, fuck yeah. Sorry, but yes.
Legends,
I hate
Legends, not Off-World. Legends.
I hate me some Snake Men. I will always say that. I love the army builders. Can't stand the actual figures though. And the stories. But yeah, it was a surprise that it tied to him, but it was also like, thank you. At least for doing something that is not going to be King Hiss showing up, because I don't need that garbage right now.
Well, I'm glad
I have no problem with Hordak and the Horde showing up. I just don't need the Snake Man.
Well, I think that's the thing. I think Ka can still technically be tied back to them, but having
Probably.
Granomir be like the last living practicer of it is like it works, and that way you're not having to introduce that third party that like we've only got 5 episodes.
Yeah.
So it's a nice little shortcut, but it doesn't close the door.
It was a surprise. Like Evelyn's a hospice nurse, basically, but I did like that as being part of the deal of her feeling that like she feels she has to atone for something.
Yeah.
And out of all the things that happened in Revelation, I thought that was the most ridiculous thing that happened. But the fact that is a plot point they're trying to resolve, and it actually is an interesting plot point now that it's in action, works for me. I just didn't like how it just out of nowhere had to be in there at the end of last season. Or it just, okay, nothing matters at all. We're going to just kill Heaven. Oh, bye, guys. It's like, okay.
All right, moving on to scene 3. We join back up with He-Man and Battle Cat. They have reached the area of Eternos as under attack. We see techno-cultists, smoke bombs, citizens fleeing, and we see nanobots infecting the citizens that are blasted by the smoke. Skeletor makes his appearance. This is the first time the heroes have seen his new form, and He-Man mockingly calls him Skeletech, much to Skeletor's approval. He-Man is quickly joined by Andra, Orko, and Keldor himself to help fight the techno-cultists. Once Skeletech sees that they are outnumbered with the addition of the Palace Guard, he awakens a Techno-Titan from the ground. These ancient machines, and Motherboard is working on reactivating them. As the ancient machine starts to rampage around the city, Skeletor uses that distraction to escape. He-Man pursues, leaving Andra all by herself. Keldor teams up with her and is able to reprogram her wrist gauntlet so I can upload a self-destruct sequence to the Techno-Titan. With the help of Orko and Battlecat in keeping it subdued, she starts the upload. He-Man confronts Skeletor in a dark alley where he has taken a child hostage. And in front of He-Man's very eyes, he explodes another grenade, infecting the child with the nanobots. He-Man goes to help the child as Skeletor makes his escape. He-Man notices that the nanobots are destroyed whenever they touch his skin or the Sword of Power. He uses the sword to heal the young boy. While he's doing this, Keldor and Andra are successful in taking down the Techno Titan, and they are heralded as heroes by the population. Oh, I'm up first. Let's go.
Whoa. Don't be skipping my turn. This one's
it's
me.
Curtis now.
Oh, that is you.
Jesse went
Yeah.
last. Yep.
I forgot you were
Trying
here, Curtis. My
trying
bad.
to
I
skip
went
me.
first last.
Well, see, you guys are both wearing flannel. So I'm like,
Gotcha, we're
well,
the same person.
flannel just went. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So starting off, I feel like, we just talked about the replacement voice for Tila. I think for the most part, I really like all the casting decisions that they made on the voices here, with two exceptions. One we already kind of talked about for me is Hamill. I think he just falls into that Joker too easily, and that's all I hear. The other one that I
you're
think is
still
just
on your own with that one. I just gotta say, I've watched it again today.
okay. Well, I know I'm not on my own because I've seen a lot of other people say the same thing. But in this group, maybe the other one that really bugs me, and it's another one I've heard a lot of people talk about, is the Battle Cat voice. Like, it is just not good.
We technically haven't gotten there yet.
He talked a little bit there in this fight scene.
Maybe I'm misremembering, but yeah.
Okay.
I'll definitely be bringing it up in a little bit.
So I just wanted to make sure I threw that one out there because I feel like not only I didn't think they did a good job. I think they did an amazing job with the voices on this. Like the rest of the characters I think are fantastic. The two that bug me are Skeletor and Battle Cat. So yeah, just not great. So as far as the story of this, what we're talking about, I'm still at the point where I'm trying to believe and like Keldor. But the ability to reprogram Andra's, wrist thing and do all the at this point, as I'm watching, and I'm putting myself in that time frame, as I'm watching it, I'm going either they're making this very convenient because they're trying to fit this all into 5 episodes, or there's something to not trust about this guy because he just happens to have the answer for this problem that just popped up out of nowhere. It just seemed very convenient. So I'm still at the point where I want to trust him, but I don't think I can. Mm-hmm. And clearly him and Skeletor are two different people because we see them both in the same fight. Like, they're two different people, but I still don't know if I can trust Keldor. I want to, though.
And Keldor's just got an answer for everything.
Yeah.
He is just no hesitation, which again, it's same thing. It's like, well, how do you know this? Oh, they're based on ancient Gar technology, which I've studied because I'm a Gar. Yeah. It's like, okay, that makes perfect sense. Why does it make me feel this way, though?
Like I said, it could have been either way. It could have been that they're just trying to move the story along quickly, and he just happens to have the answer. Or, I guess we'll find out as we move on through this series. Mm-hmm. Is there some ulterior motive to it? So I think that those are kind of my biggest call outs from this scene.
Yeah. And at the same time, I'm going even meta where I'm like, well, they know that I know that traditionally Keldor and Skeletor are the same. So if they know that I know that, then they know that I know that this isn't Keldor and Skeletor are the same, but then I'll know that, but then I'm feeling uneasy, but maybe they're trying to make me feel uneasy and use them as a red herring so that I'll think that there's something more, but there's not really something more. But
I know that you know that I know that you know.
Exactly. That's what I'm doing during all of this. But
what
at the end of the day,
absolutely nothing.
Yeah, absolutely nothing. But it's a really good action sequence. I mean, we're second episode in, you've got this big fight. I honestly expect when he was raising the machine from the ground, I really want them to be called Monstroids, though. especially after just having watched the Christmas special. I'm like, Techno Titan, like that's not bad, but at the same time, it's like you had Monstroid right there, and we've already shown that there can be many different types of Monstroids. So
I wanted it to be Monstroids just so that Sean would cringe. So
well, and if they're Monstroids, then that means that the Manchines exist out there.
There you go. Zipper.
Do I really got to say that other word that I said earlier again? Because you guys want to talk like this? Seriously.
Zipper.
Oh my god.
But yeah, it was a good fight sequence to see. Battle Cat was a powerhouse. I mean, a lot of times you don't know what to do with Battle Cat, but I mean, he's got the power of Grayskull just like He-Man, and he was really using it here, and it was good to see. And then on top of that, Orko just being so confident, everything working for him. And I was thinking about it. It's like, I wonder if it's for those of you who tuned into our Christmas special episode, we kind of got into the whole thing about, Orko's magic is really only messed up on Eternia, because when he was on Earth in the Christmas special, like his magic worked right.
And on Trial it works right.
And on Trial it works right. So I was thinking about it, I'm like, well, what's really changed? And I mean, we got to remember, like, Orko literally died in Revelation and was kind of reborn through Subternia. So in my mind, I'm going, okay, so like that's the difference. Like he was literally reborn in Eternia. So now his magic is in tune with Eternia, and that's why he's able to pull off what he can now. And it's just fun. Like I've always loved Orko. He's always been a fun character. His like spell mixing up usually made me laugh as a kid, and I've never been one that's like, oh, he's stupid. But it's nice seeing this next step for Orko where he can just be confident. He can just be casting these awesome spells and holding his own against these giant machines. And that's where this is really standing out here. It's what Revelation tried to do, but without enough buildup. Now that we've had the buildup of Revelation, all of these step forwards in Revolution, I'm really enjoying. So yeah, it's probably me overthinking it again, but
no, I like it.
A lot of fun.
I like the fact that in this scene you do have two powerhouses, and you're bringing that up, but the Orko and the Battle Cat. That's a 1-2 punch that in this show now is showing. Yes, it is making a difference. And for me, not liking Orko for most of my life, and then Revelation turned me into like, oh, I like him this way at least. And ever since then, they've given me more and more reason to like him as a character, because he was always comedy relief. Now he's like an emotional center in this show. And the fact that he's not messing up, the fact that he is reliable, the fact that literally, these things are popping up out of the ground, and he's taking care of business just as well as Battle Cat. And it actually, like, when his spell started breaking, I'm just like, no, Orko, come on, just hold on for one more second. I'm into that, and I'm like, that this is happening. I'm rooting for Orko. This is insane. But the one thing about this scene that I was a little mad about, actually, was the look of the creatures that were coming out of the ground. Personally, they were two row beasts from Voltron, especially if you watched the Legendary Defender show that Netflix did, which is phenomenal. If you haven't watched that, please watch it. It is so freaking good. But every time that they had these monsters coming out of the ground, I'm like, they were waiting for their cameo on Voltron when they showed up for this, right? That's what happened, right? It was that day.
They're very anime and everything.
Yeah, and I just wish they would have gone to something looks wise that would have evoked more of like a history within Eternia vibe than just here's this abstract art, eyeball, this and that kind of a look to these things, because it just felt so out of place compared to a lot of the other designs within the series, both Revelation and this.
Felt kind of Power Ranger-y to me.
Yeah,
a little bit of that too. Yep.
It took something from it, because I was even thinking it would have been kind of cool if maybe it was just like literal the old Filmation, the rock people coming out of the ground that He-Man would do one punch and they'd shatter or whatever. Like doing something more along the lines of something that way as a nod to Filmation instead of doing these like abstract art looking things. I was surprised to see a hostage moment. He-Man doesn't deal with those most of the time.
Mm-mm.
So I did like that. And for me, liking Superman the way I do, He-Man is like a runner up to, if there's a kid in trouble, I want to see He-Man go in and take care of business. And I liked that he figured it out through showing, not telling, what the deal was. That was a really, really well done storytelling moment for me with the kid. But I still, just the fact Skeletor's got a kid hostage, He-Man, and just like, let him go. And I'm like, oh, this is good. The standoff and all that. So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
One more thing I wanted to throw in real quick, just with Keldor's look. Like I know, typically when we've seen Keldor in the past, it's just like the total black hair, goatee, whatever.
Yeah.
I like that they shortened his hair. Like they don't have
Mhm.
the long hair. I like the he's got gray in his beard and his hair. It makes him feel like he has lived a long time, and
Mhm.
I mean he is supposed to be older than Randor, and Randor just died, so he should be an older gentleman.
Yep.
So I just like the overall look to him as well, just FYI. And that is one that I've never thought that I'd want a Keldor character, but the way that they've designed that, I'm like, oh man, that would be a cool figure. So
Yep. Available now. Big BBTS. They got pile of loot.
Mm,
The scene, I thought the action was cool. I agree with Sean. I don't really, I guess all of you, I don't really care for the design of the Techno Titan or the name.
Yeah.
Because in my head, as soon as I hear it, and this is a me problem, not a show problem, but my mind just starts going like boots and paint. Like it's just like techno, like with all the colors on it. I'm waiting for like the lights to start coming off and like a rave to start.
Pacifiers and glow sticks.
they were fighting at the Roxbury for the whole sequence. That's the name of the little square in the village they were fighting in.
Yeah, but like
I love that movie.
it
Dad's gonna kill us.
I thought the action was cool. I did, yeah, like you guys said, seeing Battle Cat, and the fact that like Keldor's able to just jump in and start calling shots, which I know like what they're doing here, because it's like He-Man's got to choose if he wants to be king or if he
Mhm.
wants to stay He-Man, or Adam has to make the choice, and you've got Keldor coming in and he's like literally like the answer to an unspoken prayer, like
Yep.
out of the
Mhm.
blue in the last episode. And it's like, oh, okay, he's just doing this, and Battle Cat, bring it down, and
Mhm.
it was cool. It's like, why are all these people just responding to him? So like, oh, I happen to show up the day after my brother dies to claim the throne, and everybody's just cool with this. Like,
No,
I feel like there should have been especially since Marlena and Adam didn't know about him until the day before. I feel like again, I know it's 5 episodes, you can't get into all of that. It's one of those pacing things like with the first season that I had an issue with. But I like it. I think it's cool how they're showing him using the technology. Like he brings up like that sky sled or whatever he's flying around on.
a little hoverboard. Yeah.
In the first scene with him talking to Adam, like he like shows, I'm like, why is he showing that? And then when I rewatched it, I was like, oh, okay, because that's coming up.
did you real quick? Did you guys? Was your understanding that Marlena and Adam had never heard of Keldor, or that they knew of his existence but they thought he was dead? Because like I thought from watching it that they knew of him, but they thought he was gone.
No, I
is that
think
not-
I think they never knew of him. I
Okay.
think because they were both had surprised looks on Randor's deathbed when he mentions a brother, and they both kind of look at each other like, huh? Like,
Mhm.
Okay.
yeah.
Because I just assumed, I don't know, maybe I need to rewatch it, 5th time or whatever. But I just assumed from watching it that their surprise was more that, finding out that he's alive rather than he exists. But
No, I think it exists. So all we have at this point is Keldor's word to go on,
mm,
and they really have no reason not to trust him at this point. I mean, he did show up. He gave them good advice. Like his story fits, and he helped. I mean, you see this here where He-Man comes back from dealing with Skeletor, and if it wasn't for Keldor, like who knows what that Techno Titan would have done.
Yeah, like there's even like a scene. There's like at the end of this one that we're talking about where He-Man actually turns and sees like everybody kind of like congratulating Keldor and stuff, and he like smiles like okay, this guy
I gotta support.
Yeah, like this is that. Maybe this is the dude. Maybe this is the guy. Yeah.
I was gonna say the only thing that the other thing I would say about this is I know Andra is a very divisive character in a lot of places. I like the character. I don't necessarily like everything that they've done with the character. But I felt like this episode or this scene, like she does the thing, like he updates her gauntlet or whatever, and she's doing the thing, but like she felt very useless in this moment.
Yeah.
Like she was just an accessory for Keldor.
Because I think that's kind of how she's feeling right now. She was a help in Revelation. She got thrown into this. Now she's a man at arms, and she's trying to like figure out her place. And so, like, you got that scene with her. I mean, she turns to He-Man for help, but He-Man's running off after Skeletor. And so I feel like she is kind of still that. Last time she was like the entry point, the audience view into this post-apocalyptic Eternia. And now she's still kind of playing that fish out of water where it's like, so now that strong, confident leader shows up and is like, well, don't worry, I got you. And he, at the same time, Keldor is kind of smoothing her like, no, I can, like, you do good work, and let me show you this type of thing. And kind of, we're kind of getting you could even say a Duncan Tila with Keldor and Andra going on here. So very interesting.
I mean, I can see that. I just, with the way they introduced her in the first episode of this season, where she comes in that mech suit and then she jumps down into the action, like Orko, she's feeling more confident. She's feeling herself, feeling her place. I don't know what word I'm trying to say here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's feeling her place here, and it just felt like a bit of a back step. Again, that's just me. That's just the way. Like I totally saw all the things you're saying.
Yeah.
And knowing where stuff goes, but in that moment watching it, I just felt like, oh man, they're really kind of like He-Man ran off, so she has a chance to step up, and she does. But it's like she also felt kind of like, what do I do until Keldor gave her something to do? And it just hit me a little weird.
Agreed. All right, scene 4. We are back in Dark Smoke. Tila continues to try to convince Grandemir to grant her the magic she needs. Evelyn reveals that the Trollans know exactly where she is, and they allowed her to come here. She takes responsibility for upsetting the cosmic balance and reveals that it is her fault that Grandemir is dying. And she is merely looking at her chance at retribution. Tila tells her that there would be no greater chance at retribution than for her to help resurrect the very thing that she destroyed in the first place. At the Royal Palace, Adam is getting ready for the coronation ceremony, where they will crown the next king of Eternia. Before he heads to that, he tasks Orko and Man-at-Arms to take the Sword of Power to someone who can help augment it so that it can excuse me, so it can help cure all the citizens that were infected with the technovirus. After he talks with Battlecat, he makes his decision on whether to take up the crown or continue being the champion. In a surprise move, he renounces the crown and instead grants it to Keldor as the citizens of Eternia cheer for their new king. Back in Dark Smoke, Tila is still unable to convince Granomir to grant her the power. Evelyn steps in and compares her situation to Granomir's own. He was the one who gave the ancient Eternians power that led to some of the bloodiest wars in history. Why should either of them be remembered for their mistakes when there is still a chance to right their wrongs? Granomir decides to give Tila a chance and gives her a riddle to solve, which she does very easily. Granomir grants Tila the power of Ka. She is enveloped in green magic. A gold snake staff, very reminiscent to a toy that we played with, appears in front of her. And as she takes this power as her own, she turns completely green and dons new snake-themed armor. So a lot happening, a lot of changes here. This is the scene where I'm sitting here, Curtis, and unfortunately, Battle Cat sounds just like Cringer. Like there is no difference, and this is the only moment in the series where I'm just like the complete facepalm as to the voice choice. And the lines are really good.
I don't even like the voice as Cringer. Like I don't feel like it works as Cringer. It definitely doesn't work as Battle Cat.
No.
Like it's so bad for Battle Cat.
Yeah, I can accept it as Cringer. I won't even go so far as say I love it, but like for him not to even put a little bit of on it, like
throw some Batman, throw some Bale Batman on it.
What? I mean that's what Oppenheimer did for that took me completely by surprise, and I did have to laugh at the joke because when Adam or He-Man walks up to Battle Cat, he's like, "You've been awfully quiet," because there was the whole thing after Revelation where the creators were literally being asking things. Can Battle Cat even talk? Because he didn't at all, and there was no mention of it. And so and I think even at the time the writers were like, "Really? We never gave him any lines, huh?" Like they didn't even realize it. So it's like it was nice to acknowledge it and see that he can, but at the same time, I'm like, well, if that's what you sound like, no wonder you've never talked, because the secret identity would be gone right there back in the day. But it was nice to see, and again, we're talking ticking clocks and everything, and it's like, with kings in a real monarchy, like this was like, I think it was actually the previous episode, Man Arms is like, it's, we got to get you crowned. And Adam's like, it's only been a day. And he's like, yeah, that's a whole day without a king. Like, you don't have time to grieve like a normal person. So, to see Adam put up against that. And it's like, of course, this seems like the right choice at the moment. And I don't think it took any of us really by surprise. Like, obviously, this is where it's going. On the flip side, in Dark Smoke, I really loved all of, like you said, Tila Evelyn's interactions are phenomenal. Evelyn, convincing Granomir, to help them out. Just very well written, very well performed. And, it kind of solves some of the Evelyn questions, but it's still kind of like, well, okay, so she's looking for her retribution, but I'm still unclear as to how she wound up here necessarily. So at least it's starting to paint a bigger picture of what we can expect from Evelyn in this arc.
Not trying to be a word police. I think you're trying to say redemption, not retribution.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Very, very different things.
I caught that as well, but I was going to let it slide.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Sean?
So one of the things I wrote in my notes on the first episode was it was really weird that with Randor's death and everything, there wasn't really a moment with Cringer. And then like literally Cringer shows up, it's time, and then they're going to, get him crowned to be king. And I felt like that was a big missing key of Adam's story in that moment. Like he would have talked to Cringer about this. He was talking to Duncan, and then the other side of the coin would have been Cringer, because it's like Duncan deals with the royal side, then Cringer and him are allies. Battle Cat and He-Man and everything. It made sense to me in that way, and at least they did it there in this episode. But I'm gonna jump on the bandwagon about the voice. I wasn't a big fan of him even in Revelation. There wasn't enough of him in Revelation to really make there wasn't a lot of lines for him even in that show. But like one of the people that just popped in my head is, oh well, it would have been kind of cool if they could have got him as Alan Tudyk.
Yeah.
He could have done both sides of it, and he is a really he's one of those go-to guys a lot in the last 10 years, and he could have played both of them, and he probably could have even done the stuttering Cringer, the cowardly Cringer, the way that we knew him as kids, and then beefed it up for Battle Cat. And instead, it is such a jarring moment to hear Cringer or Battle Cat talk in this show.
Well, and that's the weird thing too, because it's like when they announced Stephen Root for it, I'm like, of course, like he's done the stuttery, the weird like voices, but he doesn't use that here. He just uses like his regular voice.
He's got a gentle version of his regular voice, and that feels so jarring because like they're downplaying Cringer being Cringer even in this series, and even the last one. They're downplaying like Cringer, the minute something would have happened, he should not even be in the room. He's already running for his life. And instead, he's standing there with everybody else a lot of the time. And I mean, granted, in Revelation, they had that whole, there's been time where he's been with the sorceress and all that stuff. So there is that vibe of maybe he's gotten better at having more courage and stuff. But yeah, that voice is definitely
actually I chalk that up to bad direction more than anything, because I don't know what Stephen Root's familiarity is with masters or any of that, and I don't know.
I would assume none or very little. Like
as a director, like you gotta talk to him there and say, hey, this the other voice needs to sound a little different. You need to change it up a bit. He has done a ton of voice acting. Like this is not his first gig as a voice actor, and it's not like he just talks in his normal tone for every single voice. So it would have been very easy for him to change it up. I don't blame him. I do blame the direction more than
I can agree with that.
But yeah, other than that, I was just watching the ending of this episode before we recorded, and I get a kick out of the moment when Granomir grants the Ka power to Teela, because the minute she does that transformation, it just ends with her doing the at the camera. I'm like, that's just awesome. I'm sorry, it just is, because for 40 years we've had this character that has never been represented in a cartoon, and finally here she is as the Green Goddess, I guess, if you want to go that route with the naming convention. And on the first day of watching this, I actually reached out to Nate Barch and I congratulated him for finally getting something he's wanted for so long in animated form, and he even was just like, this is just too cool. Like, so it made my day for him to know this is one of those characters that he has been like, oh my god, if they could do something with her. And so and the design of her is just phenomenal too.
I was listening to that interview with him the other day, and he was talking about when he found out. He said that he was at like Target or something. He's walking down the toy aisle and stuff, and he gets these texts from Ted Biaselli, and it's just like those pictures of the Green Goddess, and like he's like basically shitting himself in the store, and he's got to look around and make sure that like nobody's around him that can see his phone and stuff. But yeah, he was like super excited. So we all have our favorites in this universe, and yeah, for his to be brought to the screen for the first time is pretty awesome.
I don't even remember what we're talking about. I agree with I don't mind Cringer's voice. It could be more. don't want to say comical, but more played up. But yeah, Battle Cat's voice was like when he talked, I was just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
'Cause it just felt so. I'm like, it's just Cringer again.
Yep.
But like the dialogue, what he was saying, I was focused on
Yeah.
that rather than the voice, and like the conversation was really good. And
It
I
was.
agree with. I don't remember who said it about having Cringer talk to Adam again. 5 episodes. I feel like
Yeah.
usually Netflix has shows that run too long and there's too much filler. Especially like some other series that run. We got to get 13 episodes. Like, why 13? Even though I like that number, why 13 episodes when 3 of those hours were completely useless? Like, you spent an entire episode of Daredevil giving me this backstory on this FBI agent that dies in the next episode. Like, I didn't care about him before that hour.
Spoiler alert.
I didn't care that he died. Like,
Yeah.
And I know it's animation. There's a lot more work on different levels to go into this, but I feel like Revelation, both parts of that and Revolution could have benefited from at least like 1, maybe 2 more episodes, just to kind of give some breathing room to stuff. But I did like you guys saying, I really liked the concept of Teela having to take on these extra powers, not because it's going to make her more powerful, but that she's already gone through one shift in power. Now she's doing this. You don't know what's going to do to her. How much of her is going to get lost to this and everything. And it kind of reminded me when she did that transformation when, oh gosh, I'm blanking on her name, in Legend, when with Tim Curry, when the girl
remember
eats
her
the
name.
fruit or whatever she does, and she becomes like the dark version of herself with like the black dress and all the makeup and everything. Like, it kind of had that like, no, but at the same time I was like, oh cool, that figure's finally real, like, in the show. So like I have more to say about that, but I think that's for the next episode. But I thought that was really cool in the way, like she hisses and her eyes go to like kind of that snake slit. Because they did really good job of focusing on Granimir's eyes, to see that it's like a very similar look to his pupils and everything. So
absolutely,
yeah.
I continue to like the whole interaction between Granamir and Evelyn and Teela here. I don't have a ton to say on this because I know we're already kind of running along, but I do like the extra, like the quests that they're going on, and the fact that she's getting these extra powers, but she never feels like overpowered to me. Like it felt like in Revelation, like they just kept amping up her powers to where it was like, she was stronger and more important than He-Man. Like I'd never get that feeling in this series.
Yeah.
Like it's she's doing this because, like Jesse said, she's got this goal of returning Preternia. It's not power for the sake of power, or power to be the strongest one in this, this story. So I like the way that they did that. And even just the art style, like throughout this series, in all the different, costume changes. Like we had the one at the beginning, then we had the wintry one. Now we're talking about the Green Goddess one. Like as they go through these different costume changes, she looks very feminine in all of these costume changes. Like it's not like, at no point do I feel like, oh, she's over muscled and, bulky and manly or anything like that. Like they kept a very feminine look, which I thought was cool. As far as like the stuff back at the palace, there's only 2 times throughout this series that I felt like the story was rushed because there's only 5 episodes. The whole ascension and crowning of Keldor is one of those 2 moments where it's like, okay, yeah, he shows up, he tells you this great story, he makes it through the fight, and is basically has the answers for stopping these things and gets the smile from He-Man. But then to immediately be crowned king, it's like, that seems pretty quick for this guy that just basically showed up. But it's only 5 episodes, so I just gotta kind of throw that to the side and kind of ignore that. So I get it, but it's like I said, it's one of those 2 times where I did feel, okay, this is a little rushed. So
to your point about about Tila though. I gotta say I like your point about it. And the other thing that I liked about the way they did it is she's learning everything as she's
Mm.
going through this.
Mhm.
So even though she's accumulating the power, I love how it's making it that she doesn't know how to use it. She's
Oh
just
yeah.
figuring it out on the fly. And they have like they have a little bit of stuff handling that in in the next episode, which we'll get into. But I do like that is why she doesn't feel overpowered in this. It just feels
Yeah.
like she's accumulating this with the
Mhm.
mission involved. She doesn't want it on her own.
Well, if you go back
So,
to the first episode, just the fact that she had to go to her mom to ask questions and stuff,
yep,
and now she's having
yep.
to go to Granomir to ask questions. Like, yeah, she doesn't have all the answers. She knows that she
Hmm.
doesn't have all the answers. So there's a certain vulnerability to that, which I
Yeah.
think is good. So
They needed that with her in the first in Revelation more.
mm.
And I like that they're showing that in this, especially now that she's ascended. It's like now that's a whole nother ball of wax for her to deal with.
Well,
And I like that.
it's one thing to have great powers. It's another thing to have accumulated it through a journey that you
Yeah.
pick those up. You know, like if it's just given to you and you're just like, you know, OP right out off the start,
Yep.
it's not as good a story. But if you have to actually work for this stuff and it's a quest and you accumulate these things as you go, I think it's just a better storyline in general.
Yeah. Agreed.
So
Right. Scene 5. Back at the technological Snake Mountain, we witness a gloating Skeletor stating that his plan went perfectly. All the pieces are now in place for their takeover of Eternos, as Skeletor is revealed to really be Motherboard. As she continues her gloating about how she has now placed a king in Eternos, in walks King Keldor himself, who is then revealed to be the devil in disguise, Skeletor. Bum 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 bum.
What's that line? Curse your inevitable betrayal. How's it go again, Jesse? You'd know it more than I do.
Curse you and your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
Sudden but inevitable betrayal. Thank you. Yeah, this is that moment, and for
what's
all
that
of
from?
us,
I've never heard
it's
that.
from it's
Firefly.
actually from Firefly.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I couldn't even think of where it was from. I just knew what quote you were talking
And
about.
ironically, I brought him up early. Alan Tudyk was the one to say that.
Yes.
So yeah, this was a cool moment for me at least because there was that feeling of how is Keldor and Skeletor in the same place?
Yep.
Because that really did when they have the fight in the village or whatever you want to call it. That part had me going, okay, so we are definitely off the ranch or off the reservation
Right.
about Keldor and Skeletor being the same person. And when they did that part, I'm like, oh, you guys, you see what you did there.
They got me.
They
They
did
got
get
me.
me. And
Yep.
honestly, I'll be completely honest. I think I missed it the first time. So when I saw it just a little while ago before we recorded, it's like that's the moment because I know I missed it, and the whole rest of the time I'm like, how did Skeletor and Keldor end up? I was yeah. So yeah, I was very impressed with that turn of events, and again, like CGI, you're thinking you know the story, but when you see moments like this, you're like, oh man, how like where are they going to weave this now? Because it's definitely we are not in charted territory with this series, especially. So
I was not as shocked by the surprise. It wasn't like I can't say I thought that's exactly how it was going to play out, especially not knowing the lore as much as you guys, but knowing that Keldor has been Skeletor in the past, and I was just kind of like, okay, what are they gonna do here? But I liked the whole thing where like Motherboard when Skeletor comes, everything worked according to my plan. I'm like, oh, this doesn't feel like the same Skeletor from last episode. Like gloating about this. I'm
Right.
like, what's going on? And then when it reveals, that it's her, and then he comes in, I was like, okay, all right, I like this. So, but then, sorry, I'm fidgeting. Some of the things that up to this point, I'm like, so Skeletor's playing good, encouraging uncle.
Yes.
Like, he's doing that really well, and it's not
Yes.
just clearly manipulation. It's not just, yes, follow my words and fall into my plan. Like it he's like giving him relatively sound advice.
Yep.
Like I'm like, interesting. Like
Yeah.
that had me more intrigued. I'm like, okay, so Skeletor is there doing this, especially in other things we'll see later. But like, yeah, I just thought that was, and it kind of puts a spin on that opening scene. From Keldor's perspective, now that it was actually Skeletor sharing that story with Adam.
Go ahead, Curtis.
So for me, they got me, but I mean, hook, line, and sinker. I'm like Keldor shows up, and I'm like, what's going on? And then the whole story, and then the battle, and I'm like, these are clearly two separate people. And then throughout the battle, I'm like, okay, it seems like things are going very convenient. Either this is just they're rushing the story, or he is there's something devious behind it. Had no idea that it was Skeletor. I thought maybe it's another person working with Skeletor. Maybe it's somebody pretending to be Keldor. I didn't know when they do the switch here and you find out that Keldor is Skeletor. Now my brain is even more broken because I'm like, okay, so is Keldor a real person?
Yep.
What is it? Did he make the whole thing up? Is it like, where's this story of Keldor from? Like, how did like, if you were going to make up a story, why would you make him Gar? If you can make yourself look like anything, you could have told the story that he was Randor's brother that was Eternian, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm totally, at this point, my brain is broken, and I'm like, and I think it's one of those things that they do at the end of each of these episodes where you're left with more questions than answers, and you have to watch the next. So when you talked earlier about, like they want you to binge this,
yeah,
it's very clear that they want you to binge this because they end every single episode with, hey, we got you again. And if you want to know what else happens, you need to come back for more. And it's like, so yeah, I'm at this point, I have no idea what's going on. And I'm just like ready to hit the play button on the next episode. So
100% agree with all you guys. Again, like you said, Curtis, and like I said earlier, like they're, because of our history, they're playing on that fact where I can't even trust that. So I'm right there with you. I'm like, but I'm still not like Keldor and Skeletor are the same person. I'm going, okay, that definitely was Skeletor being Keldor, but what does that mean?
But did Keldor even exist?
That's exactly that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Was it really Keldor, or did Keldor really exist? But he really did die, and
did he
Hordak
exist and die? Did he never exist? We don't know.
Right.
We don't
so yeah, they got me hooked. They got me. I mean, as soon as I won't pretend to be like Jesse and like I knew all along, but like as soon as Motherboard turned, I'm like, it is Skeletor impersonating Keldor. Like,
I didn't
just
say I knew all along. I knew it wasn't going to be as clear cut as they were making it out to be.
Right.
Like it yeah.
You drew on your worldly experience, and
because I don't have as
time,
ingrained the detail, the history that you guys do. So like, it was easier for me to get there without the clutter of the history.
Right. Gray and gray. Yes. Yeah. All right, guys, that's episode 2, Ascension. Power Sword rating: 3 Power Swords is the best, 2 1 Power Swords, Cosmic Enforcer right down the middle, neutral, and then Havoc Staffs. I don't think we'll need them, but 1 Havoc Staff is bad, 2 Havoc Staffs is badder, 3 Havoc Staffs is the baddest. Sean.
Batterist. This one I'm gonna do. Let me think here. This one I'll do 2. again. I know I did 2 the last time, but yeah, 2 again. The Keldor reveal got me, and just Keldor ingratiating himself so easily and stuff works. Plus the Ka sorceress showing up and all that was pretty darn awesome. And what Granomir too.
I'm going 2 power swords on this one. I liked the emotional bits. I like the stuff with Tila, Granomir, and Sorceress a lot. And the side quest they're setting up there, not side quest, but contingent quest. I just think that's really cool. And yeah, so two power swords for me.
For me, based on the side quest, based on the costume changes, based on the surprise ending, it's a 3 power swords for me, and it's only because you will not let me give more power swords than 3.
I would give you all of the power swords.
Yeah.
Shut up and take my power swords. I gotta go. I think I gotta go 2.5 power swords. I'm not quite ready to hand out a 3 power sword, but like I definitely think it was a step up. Like the first episode was very good. This one just amped up everything. And if I had any, I guess I still kind of had the fears that like it's only 5 episodes, but I'm like, man, if we're already up here at episode 2. Like, I think they got a pretty good handle on this arc. And this is where I kind of started relaxing and, being able to just enjoy the moment. So definitely above a step above the last episode. Everything's amped up. So 2.5 power swords. All right. Thank you all for joining us. We'll be back soon with episode 3, More Things in Heaven and Eternia. Until next time, go binge this series.
Oh, come on.